Hey guys, it's Zach from Tour Level Golf. So here I'm talking about public versus private facilities, or basically public golf courses versus private golf courses and country clubs. So I have worked at both types of facilities as a PGA professional. I've also been a member of both types of facilities as well. So got the ins and outs of what it's like to be a member there, as well as kind of what goes on behind the scenes. So we'll start with some of the really obvious differences between them in conditions. Conditions at a lot of public facilities will vary greatly based on their price range. So, of course, that costs $30 to go play one time, probably going to be a lot lower conditions on average than a course that's $130 to play. That's still the case with private facilities, but with private facilities, a few things go into why their conditions usually stay at a pretty good level. One of them being the money that comes in. They know how many members they have. They know exactly how much to budget for. So you're probably not going to have that situation where, hey, we've had a really rough year. We had a lot of rain. We had this. More money is going to be allocated or can't be allocated to maintenance. Where a private facility, they know exactly how much money they have for the year. A lot of it's kind of spent up front on chemicals for the year. And they have a really good idea of how to run that. The other thing is, if the person in charge of maintenance or the golf course superintendent is not doing a good job, they'll just fire him. The members will vote him out at a private course. Where at a public course, the members don't have anywhere near as much say. So my brother's actually been a superintendent at both a public and private course as well. And same thing, if the members aren't happy, you're gone. So they have that big want to keep those facilities at a really good playing condition. Another thing that goes in is practice facilities. So having stuff like a range, a putting green, a short game area, all of these things. A lot of private courses will actually have multiples of these and keep them in really good condition. So some of the public courses I've been a member at and played frequently, the practice conditions weren't great. They were a bunker that never was taken care of, or, they had a putting green that they would do work on, but the chipping green they would never mow. And it becomes really hard to work on your game in those areas. As an instructor, we see that a little bit more, because when we talk to our students, hey, where do you practice your chipping? Where do you practice out of the sand? And a lot of people don't have a way to do that because their course doesn't have the facilities to do that. And that's understandable. Not all courses have that, but private facilities a lot of times will. And they'll keep them in very similar conditions to the actual course itself. For that same reason, if the members say that's important to them, they have to do it. So a lot of times practice facilities are a big part, but that does factor into the price, right? Of course, with a really good practice facility, probably is going to be a little bit more expensive than a course that doesn't have a good practice facility. Like I said, some public courses have that, just nowhere near as many. Continuing on kind of the golf side of it, a lot of tournaments and member events are held at private courses. So if you like playing in weekend, get-togethers, or just monthly tournaments at your club with other members, private courses offer that a lot. Public courses don't, because during the weekend is when your average 9 to 5 worker is going to play golf. So that's when they're going to be open to the public so that people can pay the daily fee. When I worked at a public course, we would do 200 plus rounds during the during the weekends, but we would do 60 to 70 during the weekday. So we would never host a member event on a weekend because we would just make triple the money having public play. But vice versa, when I worked at a private club, every Saturday and Sunday we hosted what we called a kind of tournament fund, where it'd be some weekly game where you could play it if you wanted, you didn't have to. And if you won or got placed in the top 3, you won some credit to the pro shop. So you can do fun things like that at a private course. And then you also do get the benefits. Some public courses have a club champion, or if they do have a membership, which not all of them do, but some of them do, and they'll do like a member guest type event. Private courses, that's usually a big deal. So having a member guest at a private club, a lot of times is expensive. It can be a couple $1,000s, but you're having a massive party that lasts for about 3-4 days with dinners, with crazy setups, a lot of fun going on. When I worked at a private club, we did a massive member guest. I mean, it was, like I said, it was a 3-day party. Private clubs might do one, they might do it for a day or two, and it's usually just a little more subdued. So, and tea times, the rest of the time, we're not talking about those events. So at public courses, you typically have more tea times, but obviously they're open to any person that wants to play them. That comes with good and bad things. So when you're a member at a private course, you're the only people that can book it. A lot of times you'll have a website and a login where you can go and you can book whatever you want, and you and only the rest of your members will do that. Public courses will have all the time just open to the public primarily. So this comes with good and bad. If you like playing at 6 a.m., a lot of private courses don't let you tee off at 6 a.m. But a lot of times they'll also have more condensed tee times at public courses. So public places might start teeing off at 6 a.m. in the summer, have tee times every 8 minutes for the rest of the day. Private courses a lot of times will have an 8 a.m. start time, and then every 10 to 12 minutes there will be a net spot. So it usually allows pace of play to stay a little bit faster, but it's the same reason as I kind of mentioned before. At a public golf course, you want as many people coming in as possible because every person that walks through that door has to pay you money. Or at a private course, if I don't play at my club today, which I'm not going to because it's cold, they still made their money off of me this month. I still paid my membership dues last week. Like, it doesn't matter to them if I tee off or not. So they do have a lot more spacing, but a lot of times fewer tee times. But like I said, you get the caveat of you and the other members are the only people that can book in. So another thing to that is you will see the same people every day at a private club. So much so that when I was a pro at a private club, I would get in trouble if I didn't remember people's names. If someone came in and I didn't know what bag they had, where their cart was, what their tee time was, it was looked down upon because I should know them by now. I see them all the time. But at a public course, you don't have the same interpersonal connection with the other members or with the other golfers or with the staff because we don't see you every day. You might go play at some other course a lot. But if you're a regular at a public course, we might know your name very well. When I was a head pro at a public facility, I knew the same guys would tee off every weekday morning, and I knew those guys very well. But at a private club, I knew almost everybody that played golf. So I have that give and take as well. And something that I've experienced at a private club, I was very quickly able to find a group of people that played every Sunday and that were all 5 handicaps and below. And that was a group I was kind of looking for, and I played with them most Sundays during the spring and summer. At a public course, you might not have that, and you're not going to have the same organization because our club that I'm a member at now will block those tee times for us because they know we play every Sunday. Public course isn't going to block a tee time for your group of friends just as they're your group of friends in most cases. So these all comes with a caveat of if there's some weird abstract deal you have with the club, it's different. But most cases, private clubs will allow you to have those much more consistent groups because most of those guys don't play a lot of other places as often. So basically what it comes down to, I would say, if you're looking for a golf course to play, and that's it, decent condition, I might look at one of the nicer public facilities. If you want to meet a new group of people, do any of this stuff, have a little bit more camaraderie with the staff, with the other members, private club would probably work really well for that. That's why I've done it, and why I transitioned to a private club a couple of years ago. So getting into some of the bigger differences that we'll see. Women's events. So my girlfriend plays golf. There are not many women that play golf at a lot of public courses. There are obviously some. It's far less common. But there's two reasons to that. One, gonna be honest, a lot of times if you're getting paired up with random people that you don't know very well, a lot of times that's just not as popular in the women's golf community from what I've seen. Another thing is a lot of private clubs host women's leagues and events where when I ran a public course, I would have loved to run a women's league. I tried to, we couldn't get enough people to fill it. So that's kind of where we had the issue. We just didn't see the influx of as many women playing. Like I said, that's solely from my experience. There are probably courses that see that differently and may have a very different experience with that. We had a lot of trouble filling women's events when we did it at a public course. Instead of a private club, ton of them. You see them constantly. Every private club I've worked at or been a member at had women's leagues, women's tournaments, women's member guest events, club championships, far more common at private clubs. As well as instruction, a lot of times will come with a private club. So if that's something you're interested in, a lot of times you'll probably know the pros a little bit more. You might even play golf with some of the pros more often. And probably do have, as mentioned before, the practice facilities to do those on. Or a lot of golf courses that are private have a designated director of instruction. That differs a lot when you look at public courses. I've been a director of instruction at a public course, so I know they have those. But like I said, any private club will typically offer them to some degree. Public courses may offer them, they may not. It's kind of a toss-up. So that's always kind of a talking point when you are looking at clubs. It's always good to ask. Or in our case, check out Tour Level Golf. A little bias on that, but social events. So private clubs or country clubs will often have a lot of social events. So there is a big difference between a private golf club and a private country club. So typically a private golf club will be very golf focused, basically a gated, private, expensive version of a public course. But a country club will have all the other amenities included. So social events being dinners, cocktail hours, parties, whatever you can imagine as far as social events for people that want that. And a lot of times those courses or clubs will come with other things like tennis courts if you're into tennis, or your significant other likes tennis but you really like golf, or you like to do both on different days. Maybe a pool where if you have kids or just like being in a pool, a lot of them will have that. Dining rooms, dining areas, not just a grill room but full-on restaurants. But that can come with other caveats. So some private clubs, being private courses or private country clubs, will often come with food and beverage minimums as well. Meaning, hey, every month, if you bring in $300 of food, you're okay. But if you only ordered $100 worth of food, they're going to charge you the extra $200 for the month anyway, because that's their minimum requirement. So that was one thing that I actually had an issue with when I joined and was looking around at clubs. So fortunately, I did find a club that didn't have a food and beverage minimum. So not all of them do, but that was a big thing to me. I don't eat at the club a lot. I use it as a golf and practice facility. So I knew I was never going to hit whatever minimum was required. So I went with a place that had a little to no food and beverage minimum. So that kind of allowed for that. And the probably two biggest differences people will notice when looking at these are equity and price. So some private clubs a lot of times will offer equity in the club when you join. Not all of them will do that. So some of them will just be corporations. Let's say the Toll Brothers, for example, when they run country clubs, they typically did not offer equity, but you could be a member. Same thing with just a number of private clubs, especially ones that are owned by companies. A lot of times they won't offer it, but some clubs will let you, for your initiation fee, buy stock in the club. If it does better, your shares get more valuable. If you ever choose to sell them to somebody, you can make money that way. But that comes with a large caveat of price. So, talked about price. This is obviously the biggest difference, because when we're looking at a lot of them, why would you not be a member of a private club if this is the case? Private clubs will charge a whole lot more. A lot of times, if you're looking at country clubs, they'll charge for everything, right? Your initiation fee and your monthly dues are covering your pool expenses, your golf expenses, your tennis expenses, your restaurant expenses. Whether you fully utilize all of those or not, the fee is you have access to those. Some places allow you to differentiate different aspects of it, like, hey, I want to be a member of tennis but not golf, or whatever that is. But since this is a golf channel, talking about golf, and most of the time the golf memberships are the really expensive versions, which will include everything. So when you look at price, you also have to factor in initiation fee, which can be anywhere from usually around $10,000 to $80,000 depending on the club, and then you have to pay the monthly membership dues on top of that. Plus, if you're at a public facility, you are usually paid either yearly or monthly, depending on how big the club is. So my club, for example, when I was a pro at a public course, we did a yearly membership. You would just pay, I believe it was about $2,000, and you would get unlimited greens fees for the year. We also had different tiers of it. So when I've been a member at a public course, I did an afternoon fee. So I paid about half the price, but I can only play on Monday through Friday. And I've been a member at a place that did it even cheaper than that, and I could play every day, but I could only play after noon. So I could tee off anytime I wanted after 12, but my membership fee was greatly reduced. Private clubs typically don't offer that. Private clubs are, you have the membership or you don't. So it's harder to save money when you're looking at a private club. But like I said, there are a lot of perks. You get great amenities if those are what you want. But like I said, the way I would boil it down, if you're looking at a very close-knit camaraderie type of situation where you're looking at social events, other amenities, seeing the same exact people every day, which I don't mean that to sound like a bad thing, like you get to know those people really well, right? I'm friends with members at my club now. That's great. That's probably when you're looking at a private course. If you just want golf and you just want to play with the same group of buddies every week, not really interested in doing a lot of the other things, but you still want very nice course conditions, I would look at a nicer public facility. So there are some that'll still let you, still might charge you monthly, still might be a little bit on the pricier side, but they're going to be good conditions, and they're not going to have the steep initiation fees or charge you for food and beverage all the time. And then if you just want to play golf and you really don't care, just look at any of the public courses. If you just want a good deal, there's a lot of places that'll do, hey, if you pay a year up front, you have unlimited greens fees for the year, and that can be a good deal. So a lot of pros and cons. Like I said, price will factor in. A lot of private courses you're looking in, like I said, $10,000 to $80,000 initiation, plus anywhere from $400 to $800 a month for dues. Public courses, a lot of times you're looking somewhere in that range of $150 a month to $500 a month, depending on how nice the course is, kind of factored in that way. So, but yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this kind of helps make the decision a little bit easier. I know it's a lot of info and talking, but if you ever are, curious or have any questions, you can always hit up the comments, and myself or any of our other pros that, have worked in the industry for a long time, feel free to have. We will happily answer any of them. So thank you. But thank you guys for watching, and don't forget, you can always check out Tour Level Golf online. So our community is still growing. We got our team of instructors still doing online lessons. We're doing a lot of our online classes and everything, and the community is just growing at a pretty good pace. So it's all good to see. So thank you guys.